So welcome everybody. And, so today we're going to talk about programs. Last time we talked about benefits, and next time we're going to evaluate programs against the benefits that we came up with last time. So I actually watched the tape from last time, or most of the tape from last time. And one of the things I thought was really great was the amount of energy from the presenters talking about the program ideas that we had talked about last time. So my hope here is to expand that list. We have really probably 5 programs that we talked about last time in 3 categories. And so my hope here is to really complete the list of a set of programs that we're going to go through and evaluate for potential recommendations. So, obviously, whatever benefits we can identify, we can always add to that list. Whatever programs we identify, we can always add to that list. We're kind of making this up as we go along. Really the objective today is to come up with a list of programs that we're going to then evaluate. So it's going to be our book of business. So the agenda, so we're going to do housekeeping and then develop this list of program ideas. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is what things individuals in the committee can do to seek more input from their communities. So, does anybody have any thoughts or comments that they want to add before we jump into it? Anybody from the public want to say anything? Okay, so I guess, pardon? Yeah, roll call. Go ahead.
Gary Latshaw.
Here.
Tara Srikrishnan.
Here.
Donald Whedon.
Here.
Peter Evans.
Here.
George Parton.
Here.
Brian Mekachek.
Here.
Robert Brewer.
Here.
Sandeep Muju.
Here.
Douglas Coons.
Here.
Tara Martin-Milius.
Here.
James Talea.
Here.
Pamela Garcia.
Here.
I'll note that Mead Nguyen, Tristan Meacham, Thomas Clavel are absent. Jeff Holman is expected a little bit later today.
Is Thomas coming?
He just arrived.
Okay, good. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Do we need to do roll call or?
Good morning, everybody.
Okay. So all in favor of the consent agenda? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so that passes, all present. So now Pamela, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, hi. Good morning, everyone. Nice to have you back. I feel like we were just here. So excited to see you all. So unfortunately, we have some technical difficulties. I was going to show you some wonderful images of the really less than desirable high-rent apartment I was recently living in Campbell. So this is meant as a brainstorming activity to get our juices flowing for the ideas, the program ideas you're going to do for the day. So just imagine, I had pictures, but imagine your typical multi-unit dwelling that exists in almost all of the communities in our service area. There's a lot of them just down the road from here. This former apartment complex of mine was in Campbell, just down the road on the other side of downtown. So big buildings with about 8 units per building. And the parking lot, there's a covered carport with, oh, we're going to have a picture soon. Oh. On the box.
You want to go in the box, so CPAC.
All right, great. We'll have a picture in a moment. But so the parking situation, everyone had, there's a covered carport, everyone had one parking spot, and then it was like fight to the death for the rest of the parking spots. No EV charging or anything. A lot of people had Volts, but nowhere to charge it. There was some covered carport parking that were underneath some of the buildings. It was dark. There's only 2 windows, so there's sliding doors to a patio, and then there's 1 window to the bedroom. Single pane. In the winter months, I would wake up with just wetness. The windows were completely wet and dewy, which then led to mold issues. There was constantly mold. It was nice because I'd be like, hey, apartment community, I see black mold everywhere. And they would come running in and be like, oh no, it's all clean, no problem, right? So that was an issue. It was freezing cold in the winter and extremely hot in the summer. When we moved in, there's this nice big beautiful eucalyptus tree that looked like it was probably 100 years old, like right in front of our unit, which they then just chopped down without telling anybody. Don't know why, I complained, because then it felt like it got even hotter, because I have no shade now. The AC and heating was one single unit in the living room, and so you could switch back and forth. It looks like it was probably installed in the 80s. That had that really super awesome brown color on it, and push buttons to turn it on and off. I would run the AC in the summer because it wasn't automated, so I'd go to work, I'd come home, the inside of my apartment was 85 degrees. My poor cats are like, ah, you know, and I would run the AC for about 5 hours, and after turning it off, within 15 minutes, the temperature would rise another 5 degrees. So it never would really cool off. The bedroom had a baseboard heater, electric baseboard heater. Let's see, lighting. Again, it was really dim in there. They had some fluorescents that were in the kitchen, electric stove, halogen, really hot halogen lights over the bathroom mirror. There was a fan in the bathroom. Heating or water heating, I have no idea. I mean, there was some gas thing that whizzed and whirred over by the laundry unit. Trying to think, any other questions about this wonderful place that I paid way too much money to live at? Yeah.
Did you pay your own heating or electricity bill?
Yes, so I did have my own PG&E bill, which, knowing that there was gas, I don't remember if I think we just, electric meters were separate. Gas, I don't. Oh, yeah, pictures. Great, okay. All right. Thank you. Oh, that's not it. You know what? 1 second. Keep thinking. All right. Or ask me questions. I have to see the box. I'll do that really quick. Any other questions about a detail about this wonderful apartment unit that I lived in that you would like to know about?
Did you have your own separate meter?
Well, I believe so, because, I mean, I didn't know where it was, but I got my own bill, so we had our own PG&E bill.
You're saying the thermostat was part of the AC unit?
I had no thermostat at all, actually. I actually bought my own from Amazon. Had a little indoor-outdoor. So I'd be like, oh, cool, it's 85 inside and 102 outside.
That's a thermometer. He's asking a thermostat.
Oh, thermostat. There was no thermostat. There was no thermostat. There's an automated wall unit, which at one point, by the way, was leaking, and that was really gross. All right.
I have a question for Alan, actually. So do you know what share of SVCE's customers live in multifamily residential?
About 40%.
40?
Mm-hmm.
So how many thousands is that?
That translates to about 70,000. Because 180 is our total residential, so 40% of that. While they're doing that, I wonder if we could get some data, and I've been thinking about this for a little while. Could we get the number of meters by municipality served, so the people that are represented here, and have an understanding of which are single-family residential, multifamily residential, and commercial or non-residential? Just so that we've got an understanding of the.
So the number of meters by jurisdiction in town and territory, like Cupertino versus.
Yeah, like if you think of a table, aren't there 16 municipalities that are represented here?
12.
12. Okay, so of the 12, then the meters, the number, the meter county, each of those,
Sure.
that'd be super helpful, I think.
And then you want res versus commercial as well.
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so
We're
we have
taking
it
this, so
now.
all these requests, if you don't get it, we can go back and listen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The other thing while we're on that is, if we knew the rate plans people were on, that would be super helpful as well.
Yeah,
Like, if you
really
use,
the majority is E1.
yeah, but
I mean, 99%.
we'll try to change that.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the picture. So you want to just kind of click through. All right, so here's the wonderful complex, just so you can get it in your mind. Maybe, can we maybe turn off the lights from here? Thanks.
Do you mind sharing how much it was?
The rent?
$6,000.
No, I don't mind sharing. I mean, we all know the reality of where we live. It was over $2,000 a month for a single bedroom apartment. Mind you, I also had moved up here from Orange County, so I thought it was expensive down there. But so yeah, so this was the glorious place. You know, not luxury amenities. Can you? Thanks. All right. So here's some of the things I was highlighting as we can kind of click through. So you can see the carport, just open parking or one carport space. You see there used to be this big tree here. I was actually in this unit, but I couldn't get back there. Can you just kind of click through here? Thanks. So yeah, old school AC/heating unit that was in the wall. This is, moldy window frame and moisture. I'm just guessing what the hot water heating was like because I knew that there was this area that had like gas thing. I don't know.
Or if it is a hot water heating.
I don't
in an
even-
apartment.
I don't know. Yeah. This is actually pictures that look nicer than it really was, but I took from the website. So that's the kitchen. So the refrigerator had this awesome feature when you would open it, it would hit the counter in front of it, so it didn't actually open all the way. So you can see how narrow it is. Yeah.
It's a diet.
Super cool.
It's a diet.
Let me tell you, my new place, I overcompensated. I'm opening this more than 180 degrees. Okay. And then the bathroom with the lights. So those are just some of the features I wanted to highlight. And then
Washer, dryer, you're on in there?
no, washer dryer was you had to drag your laundry down the stairs and another flight of stairs and into a shared laundry room. It was $3 a load. Yeah.
And is that, it's like in the lower right, are those the meters behind those, like hot water meters?
Yeah.
So those are like, maybe common hot water.
No idea. So yes.
The challenge with this is that if you want to make this more energy efficient, the owners are not the ones who pay for the energy. So you pay, but the homeowner doesn't have to pay. So if they start working on replacing the AC or insulating the place or whatever, it's going to be a pure cost for them. They're not going to reap the benefits of saving on the energy bill.
Great point.
That's the reason why it's in this condition, by the way. It's because they don't reap the benefits. So the way I see it, you can't really improve the way. You can improve that. You can't improve the isolation of the insulation of the home. You can't improve the AC and so on. But what you can do though is you can inform the homeowner. And back to the awareness campaign that we discussed last time. You can inform the homeowner about their energy bill and tell them, hey, you are spending so much during the day. It might be because of your AC. Average AC is consuming that much energy, and you would be saving X amount of money on your energy bill.
So this is the other thing too. Let me share you. So I talked about how I ran the AC 5 hours a day or heater, hours and hours on end. But I'm at work all day, right? So this is only in the evenings when I come home or in the mornings as I'm getting ready. My bill was only $30 a month for PG&E. 30 to 40 bucks. So that's it, right? So I honestly didn't really pay attention because I'm like, it's not $100. It's lower, it's E1 rate. So I think we just wanted, there is the realities of these units are owned by property companies. This property company was based out of Irvine, have properties everywhere. But for the sake of brainstorming and getting your juices flowing, let's pretend that I actually own the entire property and I'm open to doing whatever you want it. So what would we do to improve the living situation of, we have about 40-60 split in renters to owners in our service area. So a lot of people were like me, living in that they do live in situations like this in this area. So
If you only pay $30 a month, why would you change anything?
I was uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. And paying, and think about the rent. Yeah, sure, the electricity bill is $30 a month, but rent's $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom, 700 square foot, damp, dark, hot or cold place. So what can we do to make people's lives better with the opportunities that SVCE program could, or just think about, the benefits that you have, and if it's also about reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I mean, what are the opportunities we see with improving multi-unit dwellings? Or it could be, same principles for a single-family home. But we just want to get the juices flowing.
One last question, did you?
Yeah.
So you said those are the meters there?
Yeah, these are meters here,
Those
but
Are those, you converted to smart meters? Do you remember if you had smart meters?
I never actually saw the meters. I have no idea.
Okay. So but today they're probably blue.
Yeah, probably.
So the idea of coaxing more information up from the meter data is in play. That's one idea.
I was going to build on what Thomas said. This problem is called the split incentives problem. It's a pretty well-known issue in housing, and I think there's no obvious solution. One way you can do it is you can have some sort of rebate incentive so that the owner pays a lot less for upgrades to inefficient appliances. But then they can use that as a way to market the unit. As you pointed out, they don't see any benefit directly in their rent, and you could also you can't force people to pay for electricity because that also creates different kinds of bad incentives. So if you're not paying for your electricity, then you use as much as you want, and nobody cares. So anyway, just I think that term. If you Google that term, you'll get lots of good stuff. This problem.
I think there are advantages to the building owner to actually upgrade these. It's going to be a more desirable place to live and he'll keep them rented. He can continue to demand the rents, but if you continue to have people unhappy because they're hot, cold, et cetera, that's not going to work. So if we had a kind of like an energy upgrade program, kind of evaluate, obviously there's so many things, dual plane windows, and when we go through the list, insulation, new HVAC, energy efficient. So if we had incentives built in play for the homeowners or building owners to actually desire that, they'll be insensitized, they can get discounts or credits for it. And then, they're upgrading their whole building, so now they're providing a comfortable environment, they're creating a stronger asset on their, valuable asset on their paperwork.
Were there a lot of empty units? And how long ago was the place renovated last time?
If I had to guess on the renovations, 90s. Not renovated, essentially. And they're always, there was, after we moved out, someone moved in within a month, and they just put on a fresh coat of paint and put a new carpet.
That's what they usually do. And you say about the units that were empty? How many were empty,
I'm not sure, but I can tell you now, parking was always a war every evening, so my guess is it was full because there was nowhere to park.
It looks like if the units are full and a fresh coat of paint is enough to attract people, why would they spend more money to attract more people? They don't need to attract more.
They could potentially increase the rent because of a nicer living quarters.
What if we think, so James, but also what do we think about the person, right? The people who live there, the people who pay a lot of money to live there. How can we help them? Like I said, if I didn't buy a thermostat myself, I had no controls, no idea. So think about these things.
Yeah. So I can't get into any discussion about energy efficiency here because I'm in the business, so it's a conflict, but I just want to share a fact. I used to work at PG&E's energy efficiency programs for 7.5 years, and they have the multifamily upgrade program that does exist for this, although there's not a lot of use of that program. But just know that it does exist, and so how could that be enhanced or added to? Just want to share that does, there is something that exists, and so just want to share that fact.
So we could turn this into sort of our book of business, that one program, if you want to call it that, might be SVCE connecting or mining that program for residents and multifamily sites in Ontario. Try to get more of those dollars coming to your apartment.
Yeah, so again, 60-40 split, renters to owners in our service area. So how are these ideas going to help me, well, these folks, right?
Are these through wall things, is that a candidate site for heat pump space heating? Retrofit?
Yeah, because that's a fuel switching type of program, potentially, and so in commercial buildings, just like in residential buildings, you could switch out gas water heaters for heat pump water heaters, and the same with space heating. You could do potentially a centralized variable refrigerant flow system, which is the same thing as in a single building would be a mini split system. It's a heat pump technology, and you can retrofit commercial buildings, including multifamily, with variable refrigerant flow, where each unit has its own control, because the only thing that you pipe through the building is the refrigerant. So it's smaller lines. It's easier for retrofit to install a variable refrigerant flow system that would be an ideal replacement for, because it's already in the wall unit, and it'd be like what you see when you go to Asia or Europe. You'll see mini split systems at the top of the wall, and each unit, each room can control it. Sometimes you see it in hotels, that sort of thing. It's, the air, the refrigerant is going through the wall. It's only a pipe that has to go through the wall that carries refrigerant. You insulate that. That's a much easier retrofit. So variable refrigerant flow systems are a good opportunity for this kind of thing.
Giving them the information of what's available, because they're going to have to eventually replace their units, and if they know that there's other options, so maybe some kind of informational, I don't know how we would get the information into the actual building owner, but if he knew about these things, he's going to, eventually those old air conditioners are going to break down, he's going to have to replace it with something. So we would want to educate that they could replace it with more energy efficient split systems or whatever is available.
Probably worth it too. I mean, her issue was comfort.
Do you know if you or any of the other renters complain?
Yeah, because we'd all get together at the pool and talk about how.
They complain to the owner, not to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I complained about. Yeah, I was like, why can't, because other units had more upgraded AC heating units that were actually, you could put on timers. I didn't have that, so I was like, can I get a new one? I renewed my lease. I lived there for 3 years. Nothing, just raised the rent.
Was there solar heating on the pool?
I was advertised as a solar heated pool, as in the sun warms it. Like, it was actually advertised as solar heated.
Wow.
And it was just because and I was like, oh, it's cold. They're like, yeah, it's when the sun warms it up. So that's a true story.
They cleared the trees shading, so that's cool.
Got rid of the trees. Okay, any other ideas?
Saw two hands, go.
Yeah, I thought the question that Peter was asking and James was answering is not a building system upgrade, but like if one of these wall units has to be replaced, and I think this was what Pamela was getting to, is there an appropriate heat pump combination, HVAC, heating and air cooling system that would replace it in the wall in one unit?
So there's, if you wanted to do so I was referring to something you could do in the whole building.
Right.
But there are heat pump space heaters that you can run the air that it needs, because it needs airflow to exchange air, and you've already got a hole in the wall. So you could actually do a heat pump space heater in each unit as an alternative, unit by unit.
Right, and the question is that would not only be heating, but also cooling.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
the question then is, if you want to look at it on a unit by unit basis, then it's, how can you do something that a combination of the building and the individual can replace a single unit with an upgrade, more energy efficient unit?
Yeah, essentially you've got a couple of
So
options.
the mini split that you described is something different.
That's a building wide.
Yeah, the mini split is typically something you put in a residential home, but essentially that's just a smaller version of, in a larger building, like a whole complex like this, would be called a VRF system, variable refrigerant flow. It's the same technology, it's just more extensive. So,
I think Don's right, that's really what I was after, was because it's a through wall thing.
Yeah.
Is there a through wall thing to replace it with?
the only thing I know is a heat pump space heater / AC that would exchange the air through the wall. Probably not. I'm not an expert in the options of what those things look like. But if we want the option of one unit by unit, it's something maybe an individual tenant can do if they can convince the landlord owner to be able to do something with the wall, which is a hurdle. Then that's an option as opposed to the landlord doing the whole building.
Just to follow on this a little bit further, and I don't mean to get us off track from apartment units, but essentially a residential house has the same issue. You know, if you want to replace the heating and ventilating system in your whole house with heat pump technology, it's a big deal. But, for example, if you could centralize the room that you're in and put one wall-through type unit, and that augments your standard heating and ventilating in the house. In other words, that's the workhorse unit, and the other is just used for top up or cool down or top up on the extreme days. Then you could utilize such a program in residential as well as apartment. If you follow what I'm getting at there. So that it's sort of an augmentation or workhorse unit, and it doesn't require the big bucks to
They have 1-ton mini split systems, and Tom Cabot, who lives in Menlo Park, used to work for Palo Alto Utilities. I think he's installed one of those in his own just for a supplement, just like he said.
Are we talking about just like all possible upgrades? Because I think
Yeah,
obviously
we're trying to
but
brainstorm.
I guess to me more like which of these could be actual programs and how would they help a tenant? And it seems to me that that's a very hard problem. Like even if we give the tenant free electricity, we can imagine that, then that's like, okay, well, it's only a small amount of money per month. So, and other than that, you have very little control over many of the comfort aspects. It's the landlord that controls these things. And as Thomas pointed out, they have, if given the housing market, they can just charge whatever they want basically and fill all the units.
So can we stop thinking about constraints for a second and just imagine all the possibilities? Let's say there's no constraints. What are the possibilities of making this person's life better for 40% of the renters, of our customers that are renters? How do you make their lives better? How do you make them more, what about, also I talked about the parking situation being terrible. What if I wanted to buy an EV? Oh, I can't. I live in a rental. There's no charging. I don't know. Other possibilities, other ideas?
So, leading to the EV side of things, as you have just done, is just to do an installation of a charging system for the cars where there's at least a few options in the carport area. And maybe you said there's one for each unit, plus there's a few extra that everybody fights to the death over, that maybe those few extras whatever is extra beyond what you need to provide the one each, the extras are possibilities of being the electric car charging station area. And that there's some program or assistance to help them or guide the building owner to put in chargers at those places.
So to build on that, in terms of EV charging, I think there's something we can do with, by partnering with companies like Charge Point and having them install EV units and they overcharge on top of what you charge a little bit. And part of that overcharge goes to them, but also part of it goes to the homeowner. So the homeowner has the incentive of increasing their revenue by deploying these EV charging stations on their parking lots. And so it creates incentives for everyone. It is a little bit more expensive than basic electricity in your home, but it's still convenience. So you pay for convenience, and you have an incentive for the homeowner, and you have an incentive for Charge Point to also deploy those charging stations.
And if this is 40% of the residential customers, then this is a big barrier for EV penetration. It's also an area, by the way, where PG&E has a program. So maybe our program could be mining PG&E's program. Directing those dollars here.
So, just as a general comment over here, I think of what SVCE can do is prototype programs and create proof of concept programs. We don't have to be, especially in the first couple of years, a substitute to PG&E. So going to what Pamela is saying, etc., we don't have to solve this at scale, because if we want to show that we can do something innovative that can be replicated at scale, maybe someone else will come up with a better mousetrap and figure out how to scale it. But I think where we can make a difference is prototyping. So maybe just thinking of maybe the landlord, the split incentive problem, we can't solve it at scale, but maybe we can experiment with a couple of apartment buildings, very targeted, and say, well, this could be a future. We don't know exactly how to solve it. So that could be something as the group's developing programs to think about. Proof of concept, especially in the first 2 years, that could be extremely valuable for us.
So you're saying we could develop a very targeted program, identify a couple of locations, and then use that as a prototype, and then do a case study on it and say, here's what the investment was, here's what the benefits were to the residents, to the tenants, here's what they were able to do with the rent, here's how the total cost of ownership changed.
Right. That's exactly it. So thinking of it in terms of platform for innovation, proof of concept, prototyping, because then we can be an example for other brains in the region or the country to come up with, well, here's what we can do to change it. We can also use it when we go up to Sacramento to say, this is something we are doing that PG&E can't or won't do. And we go up to the legislature and say, that's why CCAs, just the existence of CCAs, we moved the needle by creating something. So that's where it's kind of like getting a little wild about our ideas, but it's very small scale, is another way of looking at what you as a group could be thinking about.
So if I may add along that direction, taking the EV example, where you're now talking about there's not much space right now, or in terms of the question would be where you have to install the chargers and all that stuff, right? So maybe what we want to do is to have mobile EV chargers coming in as a prototyping set up and test it out, see if it works. And if the residents like mobile chargers, then we approach.
I wonder if we might just kind of center around the problems that she mentioned, and what are some of the ways that that SVCE or electricity could help in that way. And so I'm wondering, if there are any ideas. You had hot, cold, we have some pretty technical solutions for some of those. You have the EV charging as a possibility. Do we have anything that might address the weeping windows and mold that is related to?
Well, obviously, we would need to change out the windows to dual pane UV-rated windows.
Okay, so we have dual pane. Is that something that SVCE can? Yeah. Is there anything that would involve electricity that might fall into that category that would, I think dehumidifying or something along those, is that included with HVAC? What are some things that?
I'm still stuck on the is not probably not the best expression, but I'm still stuck on the incentives. And what I'm thinking is, if we do a focused pilot program, then what we can do is we can compare specific residents with its neighboring residences. We can say those residences have been upgraded at that time, or they've been built at that time, let's say 5 years ago, and they're charging so much. Therefore, to your earlier comment, therefore, if you upgrade your residents, you might be able to catch up on the rent. And upgrading your residence includes drop-in windows, which would cost so much, new AC units, which would cost so much, and so on.
There's a, when you put the incentives, how do we capture your thought of, the incentives are actually part of the challenge, and we have this issue between owners and tenants, and that, what is it, tension or conflict?
Split incentive.
Split incentives.
Yep.
And then the thing I was going to point out is that, SVCE is made up of all municipalities who also generate building codes for all these buildings. And so we have control over a lot of incentives. Not we, but our parents.
I'm sorry, I missed something?
Codes.
Building
Codes.
Building codes.
Oh, the whole permitting process.
Right, and the importance of the link between what, the unique capability of the CCE as integrally tied with the municipal groups via the boards and local control. That we can think of programs as what can SVCE do itself and how it can lead the program design, but then tap into what the member cities in the county could do to complement, be a part of the overall program that is an integrated program between the member cities and the CCE, led by the CCE.
So this is a lever that we have, a great example of a lever that we haven't seen before. PG&E doesn't have it, and a city utility only has one city to play with. So we have, what, 15?
So what about if we dangle a carrot for the landowners as well, the property holders, by offering some kind of grading scheme where it places a premium on properties that are more energy efficient? So if they had a AA score, for example, where occupancy rate could be higher.
Like a AA what?
A AA score in a rating scheme.
Like, you get a rating if you were highly rated.
Like if you buy a car, it's rated A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the higher rated properties could have a better occupancy rate or a higher market value than the lower one.
Or just a higher rating?
Yeah.
Let people decide.
And similarly, along the same lines is I don't know the details of what does it take for a building owner to upgrade their facility, but to the extent that there are constraints and burdens and long periods of time that they have to go through with each individual city, can the program leverage the city relationship in our service territory, city by city, to help reduce the barriers, speed up the process to make it more attractive to a building owner to make these kinds of upgrades.
Kind of like what the California Energy Commission did with solar and the permitting process.
Yes.
So they started streamlining it, so instead of waiting numerous days and weeks, you get over the counter and permits for solar. So it could be, when they're doing energy upgrades, you get to go to fast track, right?
Right.
That would be a good incentive.
Yeah.
I bet it's really hard to get existing multi-family housing stock. So, I mean, corporate property owned by somebody in Irvine is one thing. There have been a lot of these apartment buildings are owned by individuals. They do the absolute minimum.
It's going to take, as with any program design, one of the fundamental things that one has to do is define what makes it hard, or in the terminology of the program is what are the barriers that we have to overcome. And so the program design is designed to overcome those barriers, a set of barriers. So what is it that, you know, we need to dig into? Why wouldn't the owner of this building upgrade? So it's maybe 5 different things, right? Besides just the money, right? I mean, that's, but there's probably a few other things, including how long is it going to take with the city, you know, it's just a pain, whatever. There's a set of barriers, we have to define what those are, or understand what they are.
Well, I hate to interrupt, but I just, so we don't lose this, I think your idea of grading, you know, like if apartments were Energy Star rated, and you don't have to be Energy Star rated, but, you know, and we have the data, right? We have square footage and we have energy consumption per month or whatever, so kilowatt hours per square foot is an easy way to evaluate. And, you know, it's just a little incentive.
Yeah, I want to what you say. I think, to my mind, that's much more interesting because, going to Girish's point, the area of energy efficiency and sustainability is lousy with projects where you do like, oh, let's make this house super efficient and do all these things, and it's a small matter of money, basically. If you're willing to spend a lot of money, you can make a very efficient home. But the problem that we see is that the vast majority of our customers don't really care. Right? We know that most people either don't opt into green prime or they don't opt out. So the vast majority, just like, well, this thing happened to me and it's the default, so that's what I get. Which is the beauty of the CCA, I think, is basically that this happens. So to me, like doing some demonstration project, like, you know, obviously you could just bring in energy efficiency experts and give them money and these things would you would solve a lot of problems for tenants. But as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that's great, the thing that's great about SVCA is SVCE is the scale, right? The fact that we could have this impact on 180,000. So in some sense, I think the hard problem is figuring out these kinds of things. Like, how can we change building code such that it just happens that buildings get better and no one, like, there's no, you don't have to go do things. It's just like they happen because that's the way things are. Like, the same way my electricity now is 100% carbon free, not because it's something I did. Actually, I opted for green time, but basically everyone that just happened. That's the miracle in some sense of the CCA, I would say. And so we should focus on things that work like that. So maybe it's the case that existing construction, like that's a hard problem, but new construction, that's a whole different thing. And there's going to be a whole lot of new construction. You know, there's a housing crisis. Everyone knows this. So the way to solve the housing crisis short of an earthquake is like you build more homes, right? So if we can affect new building code so that we can do these things built into the new building, and that's a way to sort of for free, basically. New buildings just have to do these things, and therefore it's just like that's the part of the cost of doing business. And a lot of these things aren't more expensive in the beginning. They're only more expensive to retrofit. Like if you're doing it from the start, it's not that much more expensive.
Like an all-electric building versus putting any gas line to it, you're going to save a lot by not running the gas
Ripping
line.
up a wall is expensive, but when you're building the wall, you can put whatever you want in it, and the cost of that is like small compared to the change.
I think, Robert, I agree with you, absolutely. Just to build on this, building code is there, and I bought 2 homes in the past 8 years, and they're brand new, and energy, they're highly energy efficient. So I think, from my lived experience, that building codes is energy efficient. What we can do, though, to build what you just said, is that we can maybe we can negotiate with the municipalities to have a code that says to landlords, if you renovate your rental units and and you force the landlords with the code when they do any type of renovation to upgrade their AC units, provided that they're more than 5 years old, upgrade their windows to dual pane and so on, to do all these things, depending on how old they are, obviously. You don't want to force them if the unit is only 2 years old. But then you negotiate with the municipalities a discount. Because you want an incentive for the cities to put that in their building codes, in their renovation or whatever you call this code, so that they can claim to their homeowner, to the residents, we are doing this. It's it's compulsory. It's a trouble. It's a hassle for the landlords, but it earns us this or that discount for all the residents. You know what I mean? Mixing the incentive with the strong hand of the building code.
I think also another way, I think Pamela brought up is that, you know, fast tracking, that's a way, like, you know, cities, of course, we don't want to, you know, they have budgets too, right? But if you could say like, well, there's a fast track if you're doing your renovation and you include the incentives, then that would be like, well, maybe it costs the person doing the landlord more money to do the energy efficiency stuff, which they don't see. But if it lets them finish in, you know, 6 months versus a year, then that might be a huge incentive for them to just do it. And then that doesn't necessarily cost the city a lot, because it's not like they're getting a tax break. We're just having a different track, you know, for a few.
Sorry, just real quickly, one of the other things that planning departments and cities can do with developers for renovations or new buildings is not just fast track potential things, but also trade-offs. If you do certain things that we would want done, like making it all electric, then they get more of what they want and exceptions to the rule on square footage in their lot, or, you know, those kinds of things.
There are a lot of
I'm just saying that that's another category of what the municipal partners of ours could do to help in trading off for what we think would be helpful for electrifying these things or other.
Automatically allow higher density zoning if you meet a certain set of energy efficiency criteria.
Or electrification.
Yeah.
Well, and one, you know, so Girish made the point about building pilots, and I'm thinking, you know, maybe this has been done, but maybe there's a program, could be a working group of sort of small-scale landlords representing different cities within SVCE to try to determine from them what incentives would be valuable to them. You know, we have Title 24 that supposedly has all this salt, and I'm sure it does, but, you know, we have kind of a different problem here, which is high rents, old building stock, not a lot of financial incentive for people to do anything, but we have a quality of life and quality of community and energy interest in prodding that. Maybe there's a working group of landlords that we could work with to find out what would be incentives.
You know, I think those things have to be done if you're building and retrofitting and things like that, but I think getting back to Pamela's original question, which is what can we do for the renter now? And I think perhaps a little more discussion of George's idea of grading the stock energy efficiency is whether or not SVCE can do that. I don't know, do people pay attention to the ABC rating when they go to a restaurant? You know, so with the consumer, the renter, pay attention to an energy efficiency rating on a complex that they're going into. That's a question. But it's, and I don't even know if SVE, Silicon Valley want to get into the business of rating buildings and establishing criteria for an ABC energy efficiency rating on the building
I
stock.
think that's the idea. You could do a mini pilot of survey before actually going after a program to see that renters actually care when the building was rated, you know, AAA or C or D or something like that.
And that, yeah, well, that was my point, is to, it's the first, in immediacy, that's something that would be immediately out there for the demand side of the equation.
I think that's very interesting because I recently realized that depending on the municipalities, depending on the places, when you look up at restaurants, you can check out the health rating. What you mentioned in San Francisco. So, so it seems like it's up to, and I don't really know, but it seems like it's up to the cities to be able to publish that information and make it available to service like well. And maybe we could offer the municipalities to do that, to make that energy efficiency rating available to the rental websites, and be able to publish that information.
I would suggest an action. That we actually invite to the next meeting some number of representatives who own multifamily dwellings and go over some of these issues with them, get their reaction. Even if we want to talk about a pilot or permits.
In terms of the
That'd
rate,
be focus group. Multifamily landlord focus group.
in terms of the ratings, maybe this already is true, or maybe I'm confusing which state this is true in, that you have to, when you're renting a place, you have to tell what the average energy cost was over the last 12 months or something like that. So that at least you have an idea of how much you pay.
I think the bigger thing even over the energy efficiency and the rating is what that really means. It means comfort to those that are gonna go in there. So we could even have it where perhaps landlords or building owners would opt into want their building to be that way. They want to get on this super site of efficient, comfortable, happy dwellings, and they would do that by taking the steps to upgrade those things. And of course, there'll be some kind of little incentive pool, but that might be the way, because then they're like aspiring to this new standard. Well, my complex is featured in blank because I have this energy efficient building, and look what my tenants are saying. They're so comfortable because they used to live in one where there was mold on the windows and they were hot, they were uncomfortable, they couldn't wait to get out of it. And now they're living, like Pamela over here, living in this very comfortable dwelling because this owner did these things to their building. So instead of enforcing everybody to do it, so you don't have to, but these people are gonna be highlighted, and they're gonna be the ones that are gonna get the recognition for taking those steps to become energy efficient.
Kind of like Energy Star, where it's not mandatory, it's a voluntary program, so you can do it.
Or something similar.
Even with mandatory programs, the reality is to use your restaurant analogy, if they get an A, they put it in the window and they buy it. If they get an D or an E, then obviously getting that back somewhere.
I think it's, I don't know, maybe it's municipalities, but I think they're required to have it.
So they can hide it in different ways in the window.
So I actually want to, this is a good discussion, I'm a little bit reluctant to interrupt it, but I'm going to. And that, because we have lunch, I can feel the energy level getting down, but the main event for this meeting is actually yet to come, and I'm going to make you do it before lunch. And that is that we have these paths, and we categorize really more for logistical convenience, the benefit categories that are the benefits that we came up with last time. But really what this is your list of program ideas. And it can be things we talked about, or it can be things that you don't think have come up yet. It'd be better if it's things that haven't come up yet. But I'd like to have everybody write down, with enough detail so we can recognize what it is. Program ideas, it could be a multifamily apartment building ratings, energy ratings or comfort ratings. That's an idea of a program. And then pick a place to put it. It really doesn't matter where it goes because hopefully these programs will cross multiple benefits, but put it up somewhere. And put as many as you can think of. And then what we'll do after we get finished is we may talk through some of these that we're running kind of late, so we maybe we'll just kind of categorize them and then we'll try to come up with a list of programs.
Oh, I just want to say, use the Sharpies. Do one idea per post-it. Going for quantity here. Brainstorm. So, yeah.
So people would have at it, and as I say, where it goes, these things may prompt your thinking, but any program
is ultimately going to be evaluated against all of the benefits that we identified last time. So it doesn't really matter so much where it goes. Hopefully, prompt your thinking. Hopefully you come with, I mean, I have like a half dozen ideas of things that I think might be candidate programs that haven't really come up yet, a couple of them this morning. But this is your chance to write down and present. You're not going to lose anything. Anything that gets suggested is going to go into the hopper, and then we as a group will go through and decide which things we're actually going to go through and spend more time talking about, being focus groups, getting more input or whatever. But we're not going to toss anything out. So, and as Pamela says, you know, think about the possibilities, not all the reasons why it can't be done. There's lots of reasons why all this stuff can't be done. So we got plenty of that. And you know, just go ahead and put them up on the wall.
I would also just add, don't be worried if you think someone else is going to do something about EVs, right? Because you might have a different approach to it. So just all your ideas, who cares if it's 5 EV things on one sheet, just put them out there.
Yeah. So that's another good example. If you say EVs, a little more specificity would be helpful, like what exactly we're talking about doing. EVs are good, right? But are we talking about charging? Are we talking about shared vehicles?
Ask me a question.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Rhetorical question.
Okay.
and we also kind of broke down these benefits, and we kind of grouped some of them as they were similar or related. Like under customer empowerment, there's a lot of things that pretty much lead to awareness are grouped together. But then we also have separately increasing participation for disadvantaged communities, because those are different approaches, right? So same thing, you can kind of see how we broke up all those benefits that you all listed last time. So if you want to be maybe prompted, feel free to walk around and kind of let those benefits the group identified inspire you.
Okay, so while you're eating, let me give you instructions for the next thing. So these groupings here are a little bit arbitrary, but I'd like you to think about self-select. What we want to do is just group the things that are put up there in terms of like ideas. People who have suggested things that either are the same or similar to each other. And so
Select first the big title that you're most interested in right now. And each group will go over to one of those titles and then cluster the like ideas together. And then we'll just rotate around the room and see what other people's ideas are, and then we'll work with our subgroup there on the ideas that you like. So that way, so nobody misses anybody's ideas. We see what the groupings are, and then you can then regroup on your own ideas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what she said. It's 20 minutes past, or 20 minutes past, and so I guess if you guys can you eat in group at the same time? Because I'm worried if we'll wait for the last person to get done, then we won't get through this. And so, pick a corner based on your interest. But we're all going to talk about all these ideas, so it's not like you're checking out of any particular one. But the hope is to just collapse these into groups of similar ideas so we can capture them.
And also for you to be able to start thinking about what subgroups that you want to be on to actually work some of these ideas into more refined information and programs.
She's right. Our hope is to identify subgroups who will take program ideas, groups of program ideas, and then flesh them out a little bit more by a conference call or two between now and the next meeting. Because in the next meeting, what we're going to do is take specific program ideas that we come up with and vet them against the whole list of benefits that we came up with last time. And essentially begin screening.
You're saying groupings, you mean to go to everybody's little tags, and those are similar ideas, and literally remove them and put them in one little.
Yeah. Cluster the
Circle and give it a name. And we're gonna stay where you are, but we're just gonna go around the room and talk about what ideas are up here and see if there's groups that represent them. So why don't you guys go ahead?
Yeah.
You're eating. So we were looking at customer empowerment here. So we grouped it around, mainly around education is this big bucket here. So either providing data or some kind of either app or notification or outreach program to educate customers around one, how much energy they are saving or could save, or maybe equating that to a dollar amount or into some kind of understandable CO2 amount to equate it in things that would nudge them to reduce energy consumption. And then over on this side, this was more about engaging with communities. So there's a couple of suggestions in here we grouped together, such as we've got one about auto-enrolling people from poorer backgrounds onto the cheapest tariff available based on their usage. And maybe helping them to make that decision, through to offering grants, programs to replace non-energy efficient items with more efficient ones, through to offering a rebate for profit share on the profits that Silicon Valley Clean Energy might make, rebating that back to customers. And then finally, within this group, there was door-to-door education and installing free public EV charging stations for customers to use. And there was one about university partnerships. We weren't too sure what the person meant by that.
Along the lines of education, training, and so forth, especially when it comes to the lower income. So if you look at CSU system, there we have a lot of CSUs in our area. So we have San Jose State, we've got the CSU Hayward, and a few others. There might be some programs for lower income housing and so forth that will be done in partnership with the universities.
Sorry, can you be a little bit more specific?
So it's, the idea being that increase engagement and participation in energy programs from disadvantaged communities. And one of the group of disadvantaged communities actually ends up going to the CSUs, so their kids. And so having some kind of an outreach program that leverages the CSU system in the local area would be a good way to get to the community that has it.
Okay, anything else?
That was everything we got. Anybody else want to add?
So are you guys over here? Say where to go? Doesn't matter if you move them, just say what's up there.
Yeah, give it a spin. All right, so we've got a big cluster right in here, which is all about installing EV charging stations, kind of different flavors of it. Either grants or installation programs for employers, downtown areas, potentially preferential parking, school sites. Let's see, we've got another cluster that has to do with model building codes and trying to work with our member cities. So a model building code for discouraging gas connections and new construction, potentially fast track for building projects and include enhanced energy efficiency or beneficial electrification criteria. Model building code for energy production, such as solar on new construction. Let's see, this one says replacement of wood-burning fireplaces, so some kind of program to encourage that. Let's see, up here, Groupon for beneficial electrification, so the idea being to have some kind of a program to facilitate having people do it as a group at once, and maybe having economies of scale there, so if you have everybody in a block sign up at a particular time, so that they're all doing it at the same time, that they qualify for some kind of a group rate for electrifying. Right in here is a lot of stuff about multi-unit dwellings and basically having incentives for landlords. So I see incentives for installation of fuel switching appliances, pay owners of multi-unit dwellings a portion of SVCE's incremental revenue for 5 to 10 years for each converted gas appliance. So I think that's start them, once they kill a gas appliance, give them a revenue stream for a certain amount of time. And then these over here seem like they're marketing, so calling existing customers and trying to encourage them to switch to green prime or marketing SVCE door to door through your mailings.
Okay, good. Anything else? Sorry.
I think that's it.
All right.
I can do a little piece of this. There's some things that add to what was discussed there about increasing sales of electricity related to fuel switching, electrification stuff. There's incentives or rebates or for encouragement for rewiring older homes for readiness for EV charging, heat pumps, so electrification in general. Other things related to that are for any time there's a program that's going to touch the electrical system, the panel upgrades, that sort of thing, make sure to also encourage the readiness for the rest of what could be electrified in the home, so that there's no, you don't have to upgrade twice. For electrification, well, the rest of up here, just to borrow some things that is being discussed in Palo Alto right now, potential bulk buy or concierge service for heat pump, water heater, and space heater upgrades to make electrification easier.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Concierge services.
Well, just like to have someone do the utility or the CCE, the program to help handhold multiple people to install the heat pumps, so make it as easy as possible.
So it's different than a bulk buy. It's actually like buying assistance.
Yeah, it's more assistance than just the buy part, just to reduce the amount that the homeowners have to think about it. There's a couple of similar concepts here: incentive for installation or replacement of AC units with heat pump, HVAC, and related to that, think in terms of an all-electric home where the bundle where people can start at any one place with the readiness for the rest of it, the upgrade, and they could add heat pumps as they need to be replaced, and take advantage of the fact that an EV and or solar system helps save money for the customers that they can then apply to the other parts of the bundle. So think more in packages. Related to trying to get the market, the contractors moving, there could be trying to get heat pumps or water heaters to help electrify contractors' homes so they get personal experience with that, or offer them an incentive or a prize for the most installation of heat pumps in each month or quarter, or some other upstream, midstream incentive where it encourages the inventory locally so that there are units available, because that's one of the barriers to electrification using heat pumps is there's not a lot of units in the area. Some of the other sections, there's one here that reflects the point earlier about getting a focus group of multifamily building owners to learn more. And then this group is about the connection between what CCE can do and the municipals relative to what the city can do for codes and mandating efficiency in new construction, or renovation of buildings, working with the cities to streamline permitting for solar and other renewable and electrification. So you think integration across our partner group. And then this is this is about energy efficiency areas, rating system for voluntary Energy Star-like rating system for comfort and efficiency. But that's what this area is about. So I'm done. Someone else I didn't look at this, so someone else has got to look.
Keep going. You're on a roll.
Me?
Yeah. Somebody else wants to jump in and kick you out.
Okay. So this involves how might we provide customer backup power, improve reliability for customers. So there's the concepts of how to encourage storage to be installed in homes, potentially offset tiered, have some sort of rebate. On-site storage of excess production of solar, working with cities to create microgrids, disaster preparedness. So it's all solar related to in that area. This promoting local jobs and development, work with local electric workers union, create a beneficial electrification or electrify everything type of job training program to build up the capabilities of the area and the contractors doing the work. Promote local solar. This area is how to reduce demand during peak hours, deal with the duct curve, reducing the need for carbon emitting peaker plants. So what does the duct curve look like in our community? So measure and better understand that. This also is related to storage. But it kind of, there's some overlap here. So create storage program, smart meter program that tracks energy use and updates customers, more incentives for west-facing solar, how to leverage excess solar. So there's a lot of what to do with the solar and storage here. So there's commonality here. Smart pool pump controls and other technology to try to make the grid and the local distribution area smarter. That's what I'm seeing here. Someone else want to go? No? All right. So this is entitled Reducing Customer Bills, Shifting Usage, and Helping to Encourage Reducing Customer Costs. So one point here about educational programs shouldn't just be capturing numbers of attendees. We want to think about how they are motivating the actions that we want. So what is it, the actions we want, not just to do an education program, because by itself an education program doesn't really get you where you want unless there's metrics that track that they're actually doing something beneficial to the community. Smart meter to recommend cheaper times of use, so maybe just more how to leverage the information from the smart meter. More storage that might match up with over there, storage incentives. Improving insulation of homes to reduce, so it's just home upgrades. Creating energy comfort rating. So this ties into some over here about information. This is educational. So a couple of these are mine. Related to what you were talking about before, multifamily units, there's an electric bus company, I think it's in Menlo Park, called Proterra. I don't know if they might be thinking of mini buses, but there's some increase in transit, maybe ride sharing with buses, not just cars. So maybe encouraging through partnership with Proterra or other startup in the area of electric transit is to connect all the, or somehow do ride sharing on a more than just a couple of people in a car basis, because it reduces the number of cars on the road. This area is just more information about who are the high energy targets. So Pamela talked about a pretty low bill for an apartment. Maybe some have larger bills. So how do we identify through the information we have about their energy use and figure out who are the best folks to try to address who's got a bigger challenge with their bill. Energy efficiency rating for residential units, so that's similar to there. Taking advantage of PG&E's multifamily home upgrade program, so how to help more people take advantage of that, or help more landlords take advantage of that somehow. More about multifamily development to pre-plumb or wire for future use for electrification and solar and heat pumps. Make it as easy as possible to developers. And more about how to leverage what PG&E is already doing for multifamily EV chargers. So how to extend, do more than what they're doing or what they won't do, how to add to that. So that's call that. I'm done.
So we've already developed out a little bit, program that's having to do with storage, and program that's having to do with, there was actually two parts of customer empowerment. One had to do with monitoring, measurement and monitoring, and the other had to do with information and alerts and so forth. So we have some, and then we also have a bunch on electrification, although that needs, I think, electrification is a big area, and I would be happier to have that be talking about, like, let's say, space and water heating as a category as distinct from encouraging EVs. Although we didn't have a lot on EVs up here. Do we have any on EVs? We had EV charging.
Oh, yeah. Just a little bit, and you know, there's already been some work at Sonoma Clean Power. They're on version at least 2 of some programs
We
there.
gotta do our work. So
No,
we-
I get it.
I had
informative.
I had EV charging, a couple on EV charging station installations, and then building codes on having to do with, actually, was it? So I guess where I was headed with this is, trying to pull out from here the ones that we really haven't done much on. I mean, I think there's a theme that came out today that has to do with how to reach multifamily resident owners. And, you know, is that a way to deepen improvements in multifamily residences, which is part of our domain as we go through the norms and through the codes. And so there's that, there's a category there that we need to flesh out more.
Just in general, multifamily doesn't get as much help and attention, so, and it's 40%, as it said, of our customer base in residential, so it'd be helpful if we do stuff in that area.
So is there somebody who'd be willing to have their name next to convening a conference call between our next meetings and talk in a little bit more specificity on this challenge of multifamily residents with specific focus on the developers and the owners? So can you get those? There are two, three?
Brian, Barry, and George.
Three, as for modification, it actually works. I hate conference calls on the phone.
You can meet if you want.
But, I mean, maybe as a form a subgroup or a subcommittee and report back the next one.
That's what this is. And the specific charge, I'll repeat this, but the specific charge is to describe the program, specific elements, SVCE's role, and how would you define success. So you don't have to do all the work, but it's enough for us then to discuss a program as a group. So for example, you know, a program might be, you know, convene focus groups, might be, you know, review the building codes, you know, it's up to the group to think about what you think would be effective.
Maybe on that one too?
Yeah, and so then I'm going to turn back to on electrification, because a lot of this has to do with electrification. I guess what I would ask is if there's people willing to separate two topics. Topic one would be space and water heating migration. So it could be retrofits, it could be new build. That's actually one of the questions.
What's the other one? So
And then the other one is readiness for electrification, which is, you know, related obviously to the first one. I think that a program that promotes that is gonna look really different.
Well, in my view, a readiness program is challenging to stand on its own because someone it's not going to immediately provide GHG reductions or cost savings. So in my view, a readiness for electrification is a component that plugs into some other things. It could be talked about separately, but it's a piece of if we did anything else for electrification. Because it's really hard it will be really hard to convince people to just do the readiness part. It can be talked about separately, to your point about it being a separate topic. I just want to raise that, because I've been thinking about both of them.
Well, so, and that's why we have, what, a dozen things up here. And I think readiness for electrification touches on at least half of them. You know, but especially, okay, then what specifically can we do? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, and I was gonna say, maybe we can define what we mean by the.
Well, that's this subgroup, their job would be to come back and say, okay, so here's a program around readiness for electrification, and it is things like EV ready building codes. Or it is something like, and then, what did I say? I said the description, specific elements, SVCE's role, and then how would you define success? And then the other one, so let's see hands for readiness for electrification.
Not really seen that as part of something else as well, but,
We can change these things. The thing with, right now it's amorphous, and so, you know, we need to put 4 pointers around it. Do you have the names?
I have Don, James, Doug, and Tara. And Grant.
Pardon? The second one, sorry, was,
The other was about specific programs for heat pump water heaters, heat pump space heating /AC.
since you guys are the advocates, is there,
I'll also do that.
should that be expanded to other types of electrification?
Well, it could be, and so I would include, maybe you want to call it all electric buildings, and then I would envision that the starting point would be water heating and space heating, because in the average Bay Area home, for example, has 86% of the GHGs from natural gas. But it would include, potentially in the future, and done the right way, how to get people to switch their drying and their cooking, which is kind of a third rail in discussion of electrification. So all electric home, device-oriented programs.
Okay, so
Nice way to put it.
let me let me put it this way. This is talking about migration. It's specific to, fuel switching, but it's on the kind of the appliance level as opposed to the concept level and non-EVs.
Yeah.
But one of the things that this group is going to need to do is define success for a particular program. And I think for this one, that's going to be the $64 question. Is okay, so we could do this, but how do we define success?
well, that's the question that still comes up for the readiness. How do we define success? What are the triggers?
Right. And so,
Let me get hands for.
hands for. This is
Appliance-focused approach to all electric buildings.
right. That was good.
Is this the same group or?
No, it's a different group.
You could be on more than one.
You can be on both, like I would.
So, sorry, what is this one for right now?
This one is
Clarify?
This one is a program of programs around fuel switching devices, not EVs.
Fuel switching devices.
Excluding
not-
Yes, excluding EVs.
Okay, so whose hands are up? Raise them high, please. We have James.
You can put my name in one of, whichever has less people, you can put me in that.
Sandeep. Okay. All right.
Okay, so then since we skipped EVs, and we don't really have anything up here on promoting EVs themselves, but we do have a couple on EV charging. So hands for programs around EV charging. There's 1, 2, 3.
Wait, sorry. Oh, keep them up. George, thank you, George. That was very helpful. Okay, George, Thomas, Tara, oh, and Dawn.
And like I said, there's a couple I haven't talked about because I think we already have sort of 4 corners around some stuff already. So it's not like I'm ignoring them.
Which are the ones you've got 4 corners?
So I think one storage, residential storage. Another is the 2 pieces of customer empowerment we talked about last time. One is measurement and the other is information, awards, gamification, in that category. Some of which came up.
There was one more here, which is more around that, disadvantaged communities. Reach out to that. That is a kind of by itself.
Okay, so we had for that. Well, one was public EV charging stations, which would be in the EV charging station.
I would also suggest that just having a particular focus on disadvantaged communities, including low income, be part of what each group thinks about. Like, just make sure you don't forget about how they could take advantage of it, as opposed to just, other categories of customers.
But and keep in mind also, these groups that we're creating and these hopefully initiatives or programs that we'll be defining, we'll evaluate against all of the benefits that we identified, including participation of low income participation. So, is there another category that people feel like I haven't touched on that we should convene a group for, or more than one, other categories?
One in, just broadly, would be to how to leverage the fact that we're in Silicon Valley and there's a lot of startups, to have someone or a small group of folks explore and research what technologies and what new companies are doing things that none of us are yet aware of that might be something that we would want to, groups that we would want to partner with and try to help them move their ideas along faster in our experiment.
Well, one I didn't mention, and one I like, and we could add it, would be, and it was actually originally a proposal or related to a proposal that staff did, which was connected homes. And how can we use smart thermostats or existing smart thermostats and smart energy control devices to achieve things like a better alignment with the duct curve and things like that. And so, do we want to create a group for that? People hands to go for that?
I believe that Nest, for instance, has a program of which Peter and I love to subscribe to, where they connect with the electricity company to actually be smarter about how much to use in terms of the cost.
Right. Yeah, I participated in it.
Okay, so you know about it.
It was horrible.
But maybe there's a way to revitalize this program, fix it, and work with that.
Well, so, yeah, I think that one of the ideas that was up there had to do with actually not so much energy efficiency, but peak shaving, shifting, like AC, pre-cooling, things like that. And that's, that's something we could pursue with Nest, presumably, or with Eco Beer, whoever. I'll convene a group on that.
I remember.
Just
Point of information is that heating and cooling is only one part of people's energy use. So there are limitations, and particularly in our mild climate. We don't live in the Central Valley. No, and that part of our service area is Morgan Hill and Gilroy, so that's more like the Central Valley. But, so there's limitations to what certain devices can do if they're only controlling heating.
Right.
So we call this like connected home
Yeah.
group?
That brings up a point, do we know where is the consumption of most power or energy in general? How it's,
Well, having run various programs at PG&E and residential, the biggest area of increased energy use is in plug loads. So
Is in what?
plug loads, all the things that people plug in, all their stuff. So it's not the building systems, it's their stuff.
so TV and phone.
But like, you know, look around your home or apartment and
Computers and
yeah,
printers.
I can't get into discussion about it because it's the business side.
Yeah, I guess well, it's getting heavy for a discussion we'll have in this group, but in my mind, it's sort of like what can be controlled. And the big one is the pool pump, if there is one, right? And the next big one is air conditioner, if there is one. And then the pluggables they're big, but they're hard to control.
That's true, yeah, if you're talking about controlling, plug loads are.
And so connected home is the right term, because it's really external control. So is there another one?
Did you want to do storage or awareness?
Well, we have,
Or are those part of the other ones already?
no, they're not part of it.
Okay.
I feel like we've already done those.
Okay.
And we can, we'll need to flesh those out more too. But what I'm trying to get to is when we convene again next month, we'll have some report outs from these groups and add that to what we already have for, we're going to get a little bit of augmentation on the electrification, but then we already have some stuff on the others that, we'll actually probably distribute that, or distribute some of that ahead of time. So then we can launch into a discussion of each of these and say, well, how do they look relative to the benefits that we're hoping to accomplish?
So,
Could we have a little format of one pager on the information you want recorded?
Yeah, I'll send something around.
you just put your finger on it. I was gonna say, when I've reviewed multiple documents that are similar, it's good if they're all in a common format,
We have a
in a
template.
template. Yeah, exactly. So that you can understand apples to apples real fast and it just, I don't know, maybe I need to see things in some.
No,
sort of
I'll send
structure.
something around. I think I know where it's going to come from. But yeah. So, because these meetings are relatively short, and so, we'll want to be looking at some things we can compare with each other as we convene next time.
I'm kind of interested in the energy storage one, so is that just sort of stopped? and-
No, we're going to let the others catch up.
Oh, okay.
And I actually went through and wrote down who spoke on each of the subgroups, and I kind of have you in my list of cast of characters, people who were interested in those topics. So we're now 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes past. I appreciate you guys staying. Any final?
I was going to say that in anticipation of what's, I think, going to happen, is we're going to reach out into our own communities,
Yes.
correct? And what I did last night is I stood up in front of city council and said, hey, I just wanted to let you know that I'm your representative on Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and I'm going to probably want to reach out into the community in the future. I don't have details on that, but I just wanted to give them a heads up. So they were somewhat appreciative, so I'm just putting that out there that for the communities, the people represented here, they may want to do something similar.
So city councils, that's one. Another is the cities that have environmental commissions, sustainability commissions. They have meetings typically once a month, probably. Next door. Other ideas. Other ideas on how to get input from real customers?
I have just one thing to add. If you did do a neighborhood post on Nextdoor and you didn't want people flooding your personal email, we can set up I think we already have actually, a dummy email address that would just go to us to then capture, and we can share back with all of you. If you wanted people to submit ideas by email, I can share what that is. It's something like programs or innovation, maybe it's innovation at SVCE.org, we'll clarify that, but, so yeah, if there's any tools that any of you need to do this, then please let us staff know and we can help with collecting information or giving you any tools that you might need.
That would be perfect. In fact, if you can help us with whatever write-up for the email that should go out, would be helpful too, so that, you know, we can have a somewhat standardized format for that. That'll work. Because to your point, we have,
Even if they have content questions that we can ask at city council, just things that we're looking for, if there's a subset of questions, but these are kind of what we're thinking, this is what we're trying to do, we're trying to help, this, you know, 25, maybe, 4 or 5 key
Yeah, I actually have a prompt that was really derived from this committee's charge that I use, I sent to my environmental committee ahead of time and asked people to come prepare their ideas, and I can share that or these guys. So we're gonna owe you guys, what we want from the breakout groups, some kind of a forum. We're gonna give you conference call information, so it's gonna help us set up a conference call or help us schedule it. The email, and then a prompt. Questionnaire, yeah, some.
hopefully brief, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's real brief. Other ideas for ways to reach out. I see people reaching for your folks, and that's what you should be doing now.
Well, one way could be that if you could talk to city staff in your community and ask them to help send something out, because they typically have email lists, or they could post on Nextdoor across their entire city, rather than just your nearby neighborhoods.
Do people here interact with the city staff who are responsible for the climate action plans? Because there may be things that the climate action plans assume are gonna happen that we're not paying attention to, and maybe we should.
We have somebody right here who's an alternate on that. Yes. And it's for somebody.
Right.
So there's updates happening in, at least Sunnydale and Mountain View to our respective climate action plans. And ideally, all these things tie together, so you can find out, if you don't already know, in your communities where and when you might be doing your next update to your community's climate action plan, or at least where they're at.
Well, I think thinking also of things like initiatives that are in climate action plans, that maybe we should help them have happen.
Yeah. It's another partnering of with
We're looking at a few.
Oh, well, I mean, I was just gonna say that, only half of our member communities actually have sustainability staff or a climate action plan. So for the cities that don't have that, there's a great opportunity for you to kind of maybe elevate it for your city. Just throw it out there.
I think there's a discussion tonight at Terra on, I can't remember who the gentleman is, if he's from Palo Alto, on their
Gilfriend.
climate action plan.
Gilfriend.
Palo Alto's leader for that.
Okay, so we're adjourned, unless you want to provide a final word of wisdom.
Okay, well, getting us, continuing the momentum that we had here, I was going to suggest that staff will continue to meet with Peter and Tara as your chair and vice chair prior to the next meeting, the other resources you need to bring in. You talked about other sustainability officers. We have, there's part of a group called the MOG group, which has a sustainability group, so we'll reach out to them and see maybe there's a presentation or information that can be brought to this group, so you'll get an idea of what we're doing.
All right, thanks everybody, we'll see you next month.